Hello folks and welcome to the Algarve International Circuit here in Portimao in Portugal for the 2020 Portuguese Grand Prix. The paddock is being set up for the race weekend, but news has broken, and it's broken down at Haas.
Yes, driver market news. It's Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen will not be staying at Haas next season. It's huge news really, because although they haven't scored many points this year, it means the team are going to lose a hugely experienced lineup, and I think it's interesting that Haas have decided to take this decision.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they haven't announced a replacement driver. They've actually just announced that both of their drivers won't be with them next year. That's not a normal step for teams to take.
No, normally they like to say what the next step is to kind of cut all the questioning that is inevitably going to come now. Gunther's going to be facing the media later on, and he's going to be asked, obviously, who's replacing these guys once the news is out. I think that it's interesting though that they've decided to do it now. I think they wanted to announce both drivers at the same time are leaving, kind of draw a line in the sand, maybe take some of the pressure off Kevin and Romain, because they've been asked, as we know, for several races now, what's going to happen. We've talked about how Romain's looked a little bit down, maybe done with F1 maybe.
I think that the lockdown periods at the start of the year actually gave him time to really think about his future and what he wanted to do, and that whole notion of really sort of having a burning desire to remain in Formula One, I don't think he's had it all year. I genuinely think that he's made his peace with it and is ready to move on to doing something else. And for Kevin, I don't know if he's ready to leave, but it does seem that both of their futures now lie elsewhere.
I think when Romain scored those points, I think he felt that that was maybe a really nice way to end. I think you could almost see in his face how relieved he was to get those points. I completely agree with Kevin. I think that he's still driving at a good standard. The unfortunate thing is it's so competitive in Formula One these days. You've got drivers like Sergio Perez, you've got Nico Hulkenberg, you've now got these two, Kevin and Romain, on the market, and there's just not enough seats on the grid.
Nah, it's a good point. I mean, worth remembering, Romain's been with the team since their very first race. Kevin's been with them since the start of their second season. They've scored all the team's points between them. They're losing a very experienced lineup. It's clear the team wants change, but they're changing their driver lineup. They're still yet to really change anything from their engineering or design side of the team. How much of a shift do you think this signifies in the direction that Haas will take into the future?
Well, as you suggest, it's very out of character for Haas to make such dramatic change, given that they've had these two drivers now for the last 4 years, and Romain's obviously been here since the beginning. I think this is stage one in a process of trying to reset the team and what their goals are. You talked about the engineering stuff. They haven't named anything yet, but I think with the budget cap increasing, hopefully some more funds coming in, they can maybe, if they bring young drivers in with funding, that gives them some funds maybe to strengthen their engineering team, to strengthen their facilities, to strengthen their design capabilities. And I think Haas are kind of realising now that while the model that they've got has worked to a point
so far,
I think when they struggle, they really struggle, and they just can't continue like this.
And Gunther's already said that with the budget cap coming in and some teams, some of the bigger teams having to cut back, it may be a buyer's market in the future for some real talent being let go from the bigger teams. So we'll see how that plays out. You've mentioned replacements. You say you think there's a young driver lineup possibly coming in. You've also mentioned Perez and Hulkenberg. Could we see that kind of a lineup ending up at Haas? We've heard young drivers being mentioned. Nikita Mazepin is one of these drivers that's consistently mentioned around the team. Who do you think is looking good for those seats?
I think what Haas actually need is one of Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg, but I don't think that either of those are actually in the running at the moment. I think they're going completely for youth. I think one seat's going to be a Ferrari junior driver. I would hazard a guess that it's going to be Mick Schumacher, but they've got such strength and depth, haven't they, in the Ferrari Junior Academy at the moment. I think that other seat is a little bit more up for grabs. You mentioned Nikita Mazepin. I think that's really interesting because his father, very wealthy man, has been very keen to get into Formula 1 for a long time now, whether that's coming into a team in terms of ownership or part ownership, and it's getting his son involved as well. I think that if they can come to an arrangement, whether that is he buys a little part of the team maybe, and then gets his son in there as well, I think that would be a good deal for everyone involved, and that kind of gives the funds to the team to do the kind of things you were talking about, maybe get some of those staff who are available from some of the top teams, because there's going to be a lot of staff.
But are two rookies the right choice to take a team like Haas to where they want to be and to fulfill the clear objectives that Gene Haas is, which is not just to be a part of Formula One, but to be competitive in Formula One? That's a philosophical question. You don't have to answer it, but you know, it is something that the team are going to have to answer. Interesting, you say Mick Schumacher there rather than at Alfa Romeo. We'll have to see how that one pans out.
So I think things have changed since we last came on board, when we last talked about this. I think that at the initial part, Mick Schumacher wanted to go to Alfa Romeo, or Ferrari wanted to place him there, but things have changed and Haas now looks like a more likely destination. What do Haas want to do? Haas are looking long term. Gunther said that several times, they're looking longer. So I think they're willing to maybe take the hit next year, maybe even the year after, but have a stronger car for 2022 when the regulations are in tip-top shape, and then kick on from 2023. And if they've got a really good engineering setup, they might have 2 young, hungry drivers at that point who will have some experience under their belts. I think that will set Haas up a little bit better in the long term. If they're going for short-term goals, yeah, get Sergio Perez in, because we know how good the driver is. We've talked so many times about how good he is, but that isn't what they want long-term, I don't think.
Interesting. And of course, it means we likely lose Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen, 2 guys who came into this sport with stellar junior careers behind them, both of them multiple champions. Romain, a podium finisher on a number of occasions. Kevin scoring that podium really early on in his Formula One career. I personally think it'll be a big loss having those two great talents. I know that both of them have had their detractors, but I think Kevin is a proper elbows out, old school, hungry, aggressive racer. He's great fun to watch. And Romain, despite his detractors, I've always had a lot of time for him. I think he's a great racing driver, and I think they'll both be a big loss.
And great characters, you know, and I think Formula One needs characters, and they've given a lot to Formula One during their time here. And I think while Romain's time in Formula One might be coming to an end, I really don't think it should be the case for Kevin. I think he has got a lot more to give. Like you just said, both great races. There are seats available. I just don't think at this point in time that they're anywhere near getting in one of those.
Fascinating stuff. Obviously, this is an evolving story. The drivers will be coming out to speak to the press later in the day. We will bring you more on this later today in the weekend warm-up. For now, though, big news down here in Portugal from Lawrence, from myself. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you later.